The Ratchet Clank game that was released in 2016 was a very controversial one and for believable reasons. It started off as sort of a remake for the first Ratchet game, but they had to change it to tie it in with the Ratchet movie. Unfortunately, the movie that was about to come out was not really deemed good by the people at Insomniac, so they ended up making the game more of a reimagining of the first game while also being loosely tied to the movie. They tried to get the best of both worlds, so it kinda got messy. Despite its problems though, I actually enjoyed the game, and in this video I will explain why. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. So remember how I said the movie wasn't that good? Insomniac thankfully made a smart decision about this, and they did it by making the most unreliable character, aka Captain Quark, narrate the entire story. This helped to brush away some of the inconsistencies that the movie would bring that would affect Insomniac's version of this game. So it ended up becoming sort of a parody of the movie, where the movie also felt like a parody of the original Ratchet & Clank franchise. Quite an interesting situation, wouldn't you agree? In regards of the overall story, I think it was quite enjoyable, and it's a really good way to welcome newcomers to this franchise. Ratchet & Clank both had nice character arcs in this game, and they complemented each other very well. The whole premise of the story is interesting as well, and characters like Captain Quark are super entertaining. However, if you are a long-time fan of the series, I really get why you did not enjoy this as much. For one, they only recreated half of the original levels from the first game due to time constraints, which made the third act of this game feel a bit rushed. Even when I played this game for the first time, I felt like the third act's pacing was much faster compared to the rest of the game. So yeah, not being able to experience some of the great levels of the first Ratchet game is kinda sad and wasted. And even though I like Ratchet & Clank and what they did for their characters in this game, I still wish that we got more development with them instead of trying to shoehorn some galactic rangers that were not too interesting except for Captain Quark. But you know, despite its problems, I still think it's an enjoyable story if you view it from a perspective of a newcomer. However, if you are a long-time fan, I completely get why you would not like this as much due to it missing quite a bit of story content from the first game due to the levels that they cut. In terms of its gameplay, I think almost everyone can agree that this is how modern Ratchet & Clank gameplay is supposed to look like. The weapons feel very good to use, and almost all of them have different uses for different enemies. For example, the Pyro weapon is really good for crowd control, and the Warmonger is decent for taking out single enemies that are more beefy. I like how this game does this kind of thing as it encourages you to try out a variety of weapons on a variety of enemies. They all have their purpose and they are quite unique. I love how they also use some weapons from the older games while also introducing some newer ones. The way you upgrade your weapons is by collecting Raritanium from defeating enemies or collecting them around the galaxy. The upgrade system is decent and it can really affect how good a weapon is, and you are rewarded quite well for this. For example, if you upgrade the Proton Jump to a high enough level, a second one will be deployed immediately, which can be really helpful. This kind of benefit applies to almost every weapon in this game, and it's nice to see how powerful your weapons can become. The enemy variety is diverse as well, and the bosses are all very fun and they are very different in their own ways. They require you to use everything in your arsenal, which makes them a reasonable challenge at times. Overall, the combat is really fun and it's always a joy to interact with it. The platforming in this game is quite decent as well, and I like how they add various equipment to make it feel better, like grappling hooks and being able to jump between walls. The grind wheels were fun too, and it helped to spice things up when it came to traversal. Doing these grind wheels also benefited you as you would get some decent rewards from doing them. The jetpack was also another helpful tool, and I really liked it a lot as it helped you to get around quite well across the bigger levels that required it. It also helped to add some verticality in the game, and it made those levels much more exciting to explore. I appreciate that they try to do something different with Clank's gameplay, as it's not really similar to Ratchet's. His gameplay is more puzzle based due to him not having much combat ability. We still do fight some enemies as him, but it's mostly throwing bombs at them between their attacks. Even though the puzzles were not the most complicated, they were fun to solve and it made you think at times, which is a good thing. I like when puzzles are decently challenging instead of them being close to unsolvable. The only part of gameplay I did not enjoy was when we had to pilot a ship. The controls aren't the best and it feels so clunky to use, which is why I was never looking forward to those sections in the game. But aside from that, the gameplay is enjoyable as a whole, and I think both old and new fans will find something to enjoy here. The side content in this game is quite decent because you get some useful rewards that are helpful. The more holo cards you collect from defeating enemies or finding more in the galaxy will help you in earning more Veritanium when you collect them, which in the end helps you level up your weapon faster. You will also get more bolts from defeating enemies as you collect more holo cards, which helps you purchase more weapons. And last but not least, if you collect specific weapon based holo cards, you will be able to unlock the Omega variant of that weapon in challenge mode. So yeah, the amount of rewards you get just from collecting more holo cards are quite great. You even have some Easter eggs from the older Ratchet and Clank games in those cards. Collecting gold bolts was fun as well, as they reward you with some funny looking outfits. I swear, some of these scenes look outright comical with these outfits. You can get many more things from the gold bolts, like more ship skins, filter modes, concept art, and even different skins for the bolts. I like this a lot as it gives you so many customizable options, which increases the replayability of this game. Another great piece of side content is the Rhino cards that you can collect across the game. Once you collect 9 of them, you'll be able to get this legendary weapon that has been in this franchise for years, and it makes challenge mode look like a joke. I mean this weapon is overpowered and really fun to use. Once you use it, you will understand why it's only unlockable towards the end of the game. And finally, we have the holo races that I really enjoy. They have some decent rewards when you do them, like the Rhino cards and golden bolts. It's a nice side activity that's really enjoyable, especially when you can find hidden parts on a racetrack to reduce your race time even more. The mechanics are also quite smooth, and it feels especially great when you are hitting your boost at the right moment while also going through the checkpoints at the correct time. Overall, it's a very decent racing experience. So yeah, the side content as a whole is quite enjoyable due to it improving the gameplay experience as a whole while giving you tons of nice rewards. The 2016 version of Ratchet & Clank definitely has its problems. It tried to be a tying game with the movie while also trying to reimagine the first game, which ended up making a lot of longtime fans angry due to it missing a lot of content from the original game. But even though it has its problems, I think this game pushed the gameplay of Ratchet & Clank forward, and it helped to improve on what the older games did in terms of combat. It's also a great game for newcomers of this series, and I was one of them. I'm very thankful for this game as it introduced me to the Ratchet franchise as a whole, and it resulted in me trying almost all of the games in the series. I'm sure many of you can relate with this if this was your first Ratchet & Clank game, but at the end of the day, this is just my opinion, and I love to hear yours in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and with that being said, this has been 2367 Ruben signing out.